So coming back for episode 2, we are about a quarter of the way through the season, as you can see on the table just over there, guys. And as you can see, we are third in the league with 29 points. Not that realistically is, I mean, you're absolutely fantastic for the way this Chelsea squad is going. Obviously, same points as City. Just, well, I say about 4 points behind Man United. I mean, there is one glaring issue, which we will get into in a moment. But just quickly going into the schedule here. I mean, coming to the Liverpool game, where we ended the last episode, all of pre-season, we were absolutely flying. Formation was working wonders, and that continued gracefully afterwards, including beating the likes of Man United, obviously in the next game, which I didn't expect to do. And we won a nice win, scoring a few goals and keeping quite a few clean sheets. So overall, going into September at least, things were looking great. We were scoring goals, we were defending, and I thought, without having a striker, I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, Havertz, our top scorer, with 8 goals. So it didn't really matter. I thought maybe, again, this is the team that Potter would have started out with. I've gone back to the original database. So this is the team we would have started out with when he first became manager in September, I think it was. So none of these changes that he made in there. And I thought, oh, it's great strikerless. And then we got our Champions League group. Which, quite frankly, if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, when the Champions League group was announced, Copenhagen, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Shakhtar, quite frankly, I thought that was going to be a pretty easy group. I thought even the media on the game was saying how we've been look at the draw, got a nice easy group, and quite frankly, I couldn't disagree with them. I couldn't disagree that I thought this was a reasonable group. But it didn't start off well. I mean, yes, look at that first game there, straight away to Copenhagen. Then one of the teams I thought we would win easily against, and we lost straight away. But then obviously we did turn it around against Eintracht Frankfurt. That team did surprise me. I think the Europa League champions in the season beforehand. And then obviously since then we played Leeds. Then we had a defeat to Arsenal, which was a bit bitter, but quite frankly they were just better than us on the day. And then all of a sudden we play Shakhtar, and it's a 0-0 draw. So all of a sudden we're 3 games into our group, a group that was considered rather easy, and we ended up only winning one of the games. Sorry. So that was rather worrying me. That I'm thinking, I think Potter got out of the Champions League group. So quite frankly, that was an area I feel like I was going to fail in this very short series. But we did manage to recover and beat Shakhtar again. And then since then we have gone on, as you can see, to beat Eintracht Frankfurt. So we did in the end manage to secure our place in the knockout stages of the Champions League. I mean, how much further we go is another question altogether. So the reason I thought I'd come back for today's game against Copenhagen, because the winner, well, if we win the league. If not, we win the group, sorry. If not, we're second. But nevertheless, it was quarter way through the season. We could have a look at how I've got on in the first 14 games of the season, and whether me taking over in charge and whether going back 12 months and me taking charge of the team, and going back to the beginning of September, and whether me taking and going back to the beginning of the season, and to see whether me taking charge of a Potter would have been a better idea. And so this is where we're at so far. I said we are third in the league, 29 points, which quite frankly is a great turnover. We haven't lost many in the league. I mean, I think we drew, if I can remember rightly. Where are we? Well, we haven't lost many games in the league. A few frustrating results, like the draw against Fulham, and I think recently we did lose to Wolves. Yep, and that was another game where we got absolutely outclassed. I mean, it hasn't been helped as we had injuries so far. I mean, bearing in mind we don't really have a big squad as it is. We did have injuries to the likes of Chilwell, and Cucurella at the same time at one point, who both play the same position. Havertz has been injured, who's the only person that can do a half decent job up front these days. And Pulisic as well, which quite frankly, his only replacement realistically was Ziyech. And if I'm honest, I don't really see that being a great replacement there. So, like, as we can see, where we find ourselves, bear with me. As you can see, where we find ourselves, third in the league, doing well. Obviously, Mason Mount is our top assister with 5, and our top scorer has only got, and I say only 8 goals. We are only 14 games into the season, but this need for a striker, which was glaringly obvious in real life, and I think it was glaringly obvious to the end of the season, and was one of the factors for them not them finishing 12th in the league. It's something that I am going to have to address in the winter transfer window. And I think there was also a factor in the fact that the majority of our midfield, looking at Kante and Jorginho, he's 30-year-old. Obviously, Kante's 31. And then if you take a look on the bench, Gallagher, probably not good enough. You've got Chalobah, who's also probably not good enough. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who, let's be honest, is just not good enough. So in terms of the depth of this squad, there wasn't really much depth. I mean, even in attacking positions, I mean, I'm starting Broju because Havertz has been injured. I mean, because Aubameyang is the same. He's not very good at all, which is unsurprising. Obviously, Mount is playing on the left with normally Sterling on the right, who's been doing all right. But Pulisic and Ziyech aren't really decent cover or even decent players to try and take over the likes of Mount, like, and maybe push Mount into the middle. So I think going into the winter transfer window, and maybe an area that I will address, since obviously it's what I would do this thingy, I think a striker has to be the main priority. If I was to be able to bring a decent striker into this team, I think it makes all the difference with the chances we can create with this team. And I think also we need some more legs in the midfield, some younger world-class midfield legs in the midfield, maybe in the box-to-box position for Kante. And I think that these are definitely a priority. And if possible, I want to bring in another attacking midfielder, like on one of the wings. Because again, I think as much as we have depth in those positions, I don't think that depth is very good at all. Other than that, I think this team is a top 4 team. I think defensively we're still very decent. The keeper department is more than sufficient, even with the likes of Chilwell, Aspilicueta and Cucurella, and obviously Reece James and the fullbacks. I'm really not worried about that. But in terms of up front, another body in that midfield, someone who's a lot younger, and another attacking midfielder. These are the priorities I will be looking at going into the transfer window. And obviously, with the transfer window being disabled on the first transfer window, so we could just have this squad going into the first half of the season. My transfer budget was 0. So coming into the fact is we just qualified out of the group stages of the Champions League, I thought I'd go and ask the board for some transfer money since it was 0. See whether they give me some money, give me some ability to bring in some players. And they, quite frankly, they give me £8 million. In fact, I think they give me £7 million, and that's come from installments and like appearances from players we've sold to other clubs. So £8 million to try and try and improve this team, so we can obviously push on and stay in the top 5, which would, let's be honest, on its own, would be considered a far superior season than what Chelsea and Graham Potter had in real life. But nevertheless, obviously you want to try and achieve something. I think a striker is going to be very much needed. And so quite frankly, based on the fact that we have a transfer budget of 8.8 million, I think we're going to be looking at some player sales in the winter. And I think there's going to be a sale of a few nostalgic sellings, I think, because I think Kepa, I think, can go. Because I think Mendy is my goalkeeper. I know it was obviously the other way in real life. Defense, I think maybe Koulibaly, if I'm able to replace him with a better player. And looking in the midfield, I think depends where the interest is, but N'Golo Kante, who is out of contract at the end of the season, might be one for me to sell. Ruben Loftus-Cheek being another. if I'm able to cancel Zachari's loan, I will. So quite frankly, I maybe have to bring in 3 or 4 well, 2 or 3 in the midfield. But obviously with the player sales of the likes of Liam Loftus-Cheek and Kante and Koulibaly in midfield, that should generate some funds for us to make some signings in there. And in the attacking positions, I think Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, I won't be devastated if he was to go, and maybe Ziyech as well, giving me the funds to bring in some more players in that position. And we don't really have any strikers to sell because we don't really have any strikers. I mean, Kai Havertz at 107 million. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think I'm turning £100 million down for Kai Havertz, but I'm certainly not going to be offering him out to anyone. It would take a really decent fee for us to absolutely even consider selling him. But nevertheless, we are going into the game against FC Copenhagen to decide who is going to win the group. Group H in the Champions League, and then if it comes soon enough, I will show everybody the draw for the Champions League. So let's not wait any longer. Let's just get into the game against Copenhagen, as I just said. And here's your lineup. Injuries included. You've got Aspilicueta on the left, Thiago Silva and Chalobah in the middle. That is because the likes of Fofana is tired, Chilwell is tired, James on the right, I think he's just coming back to fitness. Jorginho in the middle, deep line playmaker. Normally Kante is in, but Kante has had to have a week rest. As I say, being in his mid-30s, him and Jorginho are basically playing every single week. This team is basically the same team every single game, Champions League and League, and that has affected our performances a bit. I think some of these players are tired playing all the time. So it will be Mount in his position, Kovacic in that attacking playmaker position, Pulisic coming on the left, Sterling on the right as always, and our only half legitimate striker, Havertz up front. Let's kick off with the game. Copenhagen have kicked off there, so let's just get straight into it. I mean, realistically, this result, it doesn't really matter. As in, we're qualified either way, it doesn't really matter. We've qualified anyway, it doesn't really matter. But as history sometimes suggests, winning your group can be much more favourable for who you play in the next round. So obviously, and with Chelsea Football Club, we should always want to be winning our group. And quite frankly, this group, we should have won it anyway. So I'm hoping even with the slow start to the group, we are able to go and nick it in the end. Here we are with the ball again. Kovacic has already got a yellow card. I mean, unsurprisingly, in this save, we have had some Sterling moments where he's been in great positions and not great composure in front of goal. But I suspect that comes as no surprise to anyone. And we possibly might be 1-0 up. Havertz moving wide, he is our top scorer, but this could be disallowed. And it's not disallowed. Fantastic bit of play for Pulisic. Putting Kovacic there. Is it a great pass? What a great pass. It's straight in the middle. All the space in all, putting us 1-0 up, and at the moment putting us to win this group. I mean, strangely, I'm not really too sure where it went wrong for Potter. I think maybe it came a lot with the they're not respecting Graham Potter, because quite frankly, yes, these set of players, and it's easy for me to sit here and go, oh, it's because obviously I'm on a game. But quite frankly, if you actually look at the team, you actually look at, like, obviously I get this team isn't a title challenging team. It's too old and there's not enough depth. But quite frankly, this team is a lot better than 12th place. I mean, the league suggests otherwise, but especially in January when they bought in likes of João Felix in, you'd think this team does better than 12th in the league. I don't really know where it went wrong. Quite frankly, I don't think he was ever really given a chance with the team, and I think that's what affected it. I think with the new ownership coming in, I think he wanted to bring his own manager in. Obviously, getting rid of Tuchel, which, let's be honest, to start with, was a disaster in the first place. You'd never have got a Tuchel to start with. That was his first mistake. But I think bringing in Potter, I think the idea was to bring in a coach for the long term, a young coach. But I think this owner didn't really know what he was doing and wanted too much control of the club. bringing in players who, quite frankly, not that they were bad players, but didn't necessarily fit a particular system, so you weren't able to build a system. He was given a bunch of players and basically told, this is what you're working with, this is what you're dealing with. And was having to try and pull a miracle out of nothing. So realistically, he didn't stand much of a chance anyway, if I'm completely honest. I do think the addition of Pochettino will be a good signing, though, because I think things have calmed down with Todd Bowley. I think they've already brought the players in. Some of them are already off out on loan. But I think Pochettino, with that little bit more experience managing a higher-up team with the likes of Tottenham and PSG, I think he'll be able to mould a half-decent team together. I don't suspect there'll be title challenges this season, but I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I'd almost expect them to at least get some form of European football next season. And quite frankly, with them not actually playing any European football, that could be an advantage as well, because they're going to get that rest and obviously being able to play the youngsters, because they've got some absolutely fantastic talent coming in with the likes of Nkundu and stuff like that. If they're able to get them playing well straight away, I certainly don't rule them out for Europe. But nevertheless, while I've been chatting there, obviously, it did go straight to half-time. No more highlights after the goal. It was a relatively short and very quick first half. Only 2 shots for us, 1 shot for them. So quite frankly, no highlights because nothing happened. Let's just get into the second half then. Hopefully we get a bit more excitement in the second half. Bit more of the game to comment on. But nevertheless, I do tweak around with it a little bit. So at the moment, I've got us playing more expressive. But I have noticed, being that more expressive players roaming out from the position, it has left us a bit vulnerable at the back. I think the likes of Chilwell or Cucurella have been having some issues defensively at the back there. And that's where they've been getting in behind us. So I do risk this, but we're through anyway. We won the group. We've just got to go for it, haven't we? I mean, it's been positive. I mean, if we can do something with it. I mean, it's a good highlight. Have we still got the ball? Well, we did have the ball. That's Thiago Silva for Kovacic. Aspilicueta again. That's a great ball over the top for Pulisic. Can he do so? Oof. I mean, that was a great through ball and a great run by Pulisic, but I think we could be a bit more consistent, and I think we'd be a bit more of a force. I think this is where we need a bit more depth in this squad. And quite frankly, he's just a... Oof. Quite frankly, he's just a perfect example of the lack of squad depth within this team. Obviously, Kovacic is tired, and they're suggesting I replace him with Koulibaly, the centre-back. They want me to replace a centre-back with an attacking midfielder. I mean, that probably pretty much sums up the situation we have found ourselves, at least till January. And I know it's ironic, I'm going to have to sell players to bring players in, but if I'm able to sell 1 or 2 big players, obviously with the likes of installments. I mean, Chelsea are not shy of a few installments of about 25 years. So with a few installments, I'm able to bring in some decent players here. I mean, quite frankly, I don't know who. It is a bit daft that we have players like Ziyech, we have players like Conor Gallagher, all on the bench, but yet my assistant manager is suggesting I bring on Koulibaly instead. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say to that, if I'm completely honest. But what we are going to do is we'll bring in Kante and we'll put Mount in that position. I think he's better off in that position. Even though Mount is tired, I'm going to leave him on for now. We will bring Chilwell on. We'll bring Cucurella on, in fact, actually. And we'll see how we get going from here. So they've come in and, ooh, this game is far from over. I would really, really, really like us to score 1 more goal. Because all they need to do is draw this game. They draw this game, they win the group. Ooh. I mean, these often do get given as penalties, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was a penalty. Yeah. As the problem is, and let me just see. Okay, so the problem is, and I think I've changed it, and I hope I have, is so in the first quarter of the season, one of the main problems has been, well, one of the main issues has been is Jorginho's missed almost every single penalty he's taken for us. But when you look into it, he has our best penalty taker, but his actual finishing was like 8. So I've switched him around for Mount, assuming that has switched around. Mount should be the one taking this penalty. Yes. And there we go. Mount's first penalty for me, and it goes in. It's nice to know that a switching priority penalty taker has paid off, at least for now, at least. And I reckon that could be us winning the group. That could be us finally, after a very, very, very slow start there, that could be us winning that group in the Champions League. The reason why I'm bringing Broja instead of Aubameyang is, quite frankly, Broja playing might either up his price a bit, or, quite frankly, it could give him some bit more experience to become a better player. And if I'm honest, a bit like in real life, I think Aubameyang was always a terrible signing to bring in. That was essentially the only psycho signing they brought in, and they wondered why they ended up finishing 12th. This is obviously something I've had to deal with until January, and quite frankly, I haven't played him anyway. We've stuck Havertz up there, and to be honest, I mean, he's now on 9 goals for the season, and quite frankly, he's doing well. He's doing well, but I just feel like if you're a Chelsea Football Club and you want to make a big difference, and you want to affect this league, and you want to play Champions League football, and you want to fight for titles, you can't do strikerless. Not like this. You can't do strikerless and have someone like Havertz as your main goal scorer. I mean, they sold him to Arsenal in real life, which pretty much says a lot, doesn't it? But it's nice to know that I've been able to get a decent tune out for him. I will not be selling him, like I said, unless a ridiculous offer comes in. Are we able to do anything? Oof. It's been a few chances here, nothing too clear cut. And quite frankly, as I'm saying this, I feel like if we have a decent striker in there, I think that's going to make all the difference in the world. Are we able to do? No. I think this game should be seen out in just a moment time. And there we have it, guys. A 2-0 victory at home to Copenhagen. So even though we did have that terrible, well, slightly sluggish start to the Champions League group, we have managed to go on and win our group in the end, which, quite frankly, with this group is the minimum expectation. I mean, it is nice to see Copenhagen get through. Quite frankly, I thought it would have been ourselves and Eintracht Frankfurt, but it's nice to see a team in there as well. And I think it'd be worth a look in a moment to see how the groups went. So that's going to be some nice money there. Got some decent money in there. Does that give us more transfer budget? No. So I don't really know what's going on with their finances either there. Well, I think this pretty much sums up the expectation at Chelsea Football Club. I am third in the league. I've just won my Champions League group. Things are going relatively well. And apparently I've had an unspectacular start as a Chelsea manager. Even though it says we're supposed to fight for the title, which I'm doing. Don't suspect to be there. And we actually we're now third in the league. And fans are liking my style of play. Apparently, this news article suggests I'm not doing very well. Well, stuff you, because I'm through, aren't I? I'm through in the league. I'm doing well in the league. I'm through in the Champions League. So it doesn't look like the Champions League draw for the knockout stages is going to be anytime soon. So I will show you guys in the next episode what Champions League team we ended up playing. And we may even end up playing the first leg against them in the episode. But if not, obviously you guys will see how that'll go. Hopefully the draw is favourable. But we can have a look in a moment just to see what teams are in that draw. So looking at who could potentially face, obviously being top of our group there. Tottenham ended up winning their group with Bayern Munich second. No surprises there. I think a big surprise there with Benfica winning their group and Celtic finishing second. Juventus not going through. I know they've had bad time of it recently, but I didn't realise it was that bad. And Ajax doing even worse. I mean, Barcelona, Manchester City, that's really no surprise there. Don't think they had a chance. I mean, Atletico Madrid doing well. Ludogorets getting through. That would be a decent draw for ourselves. PSG and Dortmund, again, no surprise there with Sevilla doing not going through there. But they'll probably go on and win the Europa League like they do pretty much all the time. Liverpool and Porto are through. With Inter missing out, so no Champions League semi-final for them. Real Madrid and Leipzig through there, and obviously us and Copenhagen. So quite frankly, with the likes of Leipzig and maybe Porto, Ludogorets, Celtic, there is room for potentially that we could get a half decent draw in the first, obviously, knockout stages. But I will bring that back to you guys in the next episode. So in terms of how we're doing in the first quarter of the season, in this series of Can I Do It Better Than Graham Potter? Nicely worded. Turns out at the moment, I think we're doing pretty well. I think we're doing better than that Chelsea team did at the time. But it's the only way it's going to continue if we can stop the injuries, because like I said, we have had a few of them. I think we do need to bring at least a couple of players in, which will require player sales. But at the moment, can I do it better than Graham Potter? At the moment, the answer is yes. But we won't really know till the end of the season, assuming if I don't crash, I actually make it to the end of the season. But guys, thank you for coming out for episode 2 of this series, the Can I Do It Better Than Graham Potter series. It's a catchy headline. And if you are enjoying the videos and you want to see how we managed to go through till the end of the season and what signings I do bring in January, if I was the man in charge of Chelsea Football Club, then subscribe to the channel, like the episode, and I will see you guys around probably somewhere in January. Maybe I've made a few signings. If not, we'll assess what we're going to do. We'll assess if we're able to do. Guys, I'll see you in the next one.